Are you the Guardian?
Okay, so as the intro suggested, this is of course my initial reaction to Doctor Who Series 12, Episode 8, The Haunting of Villa Diodati. I'm probably saying that wrong, but hey, I say everything wrong, so why stop now? To give you my initial thoughts on this episode, it was pretty decent. I don't know. I'm glad that I took the extra time with this one, because it honestly took me a while to formulate my thoughts on this, but I think I finally got some concrete thoughts to share with you guys, so let's do it, I guess. So, I thought that the first half was really quite good. The whole setup of, there's these people in a house that's haunted, there's a bunch of scary stuff going on, a bunch of jump scares. I thought that was a really effective way of setting up a story. I thought the pre-credits was a really good pre-credits scene, even though I think the opening of the door was a little bit cringy when they both screamed. It felt almost Scooby-Doo in a way, and that's kind of my main issue, is that the opening feels quite moody, quite atmospheric, quite dark, and then as soon as the Cyberman comes along, it starts to feel quite goofy. And I understand that obviously Cybermen are monsters, they're not going to feel as grounded and as atmospheric as some of the other things, but like, they just felt quite goofy to me. And I understand that it was trying to go for a Cyberman with split personality, wasn't quite fully converted, it didn't have its emotional inhibitor quite right, but to me it just read as cringy, especially when it said lines like, "That's better," and things like that. It was just a little bit cringy for me personally. The performances of the cast, I mean, Yaz was probably better than she is in most stories. I mean, at the very least, she, questions the Doctor and goes against the Doctor. Bradley Walsh is just Bradley Walsh. We don't deserve him, but yeah, here he is. I still maintain that he's basically just comic relief and doesn't need to be there, though, as sad as that makes me to say that. And Ryan is just, I'm sorry, he's just a plank of wood. It's almost as if Yaz and Ryan have swapped places, because Ryan has just become completely just no tone to him whatsoever. There's no anything off him. All I get is, "Oh, Doctor, look behind you. It's a Cyberman." That's literally all of his line deliveries. It's just, "Oh, the Doctor. We need to do stuff." And it's all the same. It's all so one note. In fact, there's probably more character in when I just did a terrible impression than when he actually says his lines. That's how bad it is. But yeah, the Cyberman himself I liked the design of it, I'll say that. It kind of is maintaining the trend set by Resolution, where the old villains are coming back, but they're kind of deformed versions of said villains, and we'll eventually get them in their full force. Obviously with the finale, the 2-part Cyberman finale, we're getting that, and with the Christmas special we're getting the Daleks back in full force, so it's keeping up that trend. I thought the side cast was one of the better side casts of the series. I've always thought that for most of them they felt quite superfluous, especially in episodes like Praxeus and Orphan 55. They just had no character whatsoever. Some of them have been named to high heaven. Benny in particular was obviously a huge example of that, and rightfully so, because it was just so grating that it deserved to be memed into oblivion. But here's what I'm gonna say would fix this episode. What would fix this episode for me is if it was a Weeping Angel story. I don't think this story works as a Cyberman story, personally. For me, I know a lot of people thought that it was great and stuff, but I just think, personally, that it would have worked a lot better as a Weeping Angel story. I want you to imagine for a second that, the series arc doesn't really matter, but you can really tie it to the series arc if you really want to, but we'll get to that. I want you to imagine for a second that the Doctor and crew arrive at this house. We get the creepy people coming along, but rather than just the Doctor saying at the end, oh, well, there might be ghosts, they would actually be tied into the story. Because essentially, the Weeping Angel would be drawn to that Shelley guy. They probably wouldn't be called the Shelleys because it doesn't really tie into the Cybermen, and this doesn't really tie into Frankenstein, so just call them something else. But imagine if, due to that other guy disposing of Shelley, it's messing up time, and therefore the Weeping Angel's coming for that man to feed off of the residual chime energy, and therefore the Doctor has to try and defend this man while simultaneously trying to keep her friends safe. And you could say, well, where does the possession element of that come in? Well, you could just say that they're doing the same thing as they did in the Series 5 two-parter. Was it Flesh and Stone? I can't remember what the episode was called. You know what I mean, though. The two-parter with Matt Smith and Amy Pond, where they use, like, the radio, and the radio has the sergeant, but the sergeant is actually the Weeping Angels talking through the guy. That's where I was going with it. And it would also make more sense within the context of why the Cybermen are using Time Lord technology. Because, like, if you think about it, perception filters and all that is very Time Lord stuff. For a while, I thought they were on another TARDIS. It was so Time Lord. But it turns out, no, it was the Cybermen. So, did the Cybermen use perception filters now? I didn't know that. Yeah, it just felt very Time Lord. So, I've always subscribed to the notion that Weeping Angels are dead Time Lords. So I think that would make more sense. Plus, the Weeping Angels have known to manipulate time and their surroundings and fiddle with lights and stuff. And also, can you imagine if the story used lightning to actually, you know, have the Weeping Angels move? The scene where they've got their eyes shut and they have to imagine the Weeping Angels moving, like in the Matt Smith two-parter. I just feel like this story was, like, tailor-made for a Weeping Angels return. Think about it, we haven't had a Weeping Angels return since what? Angels Take Manhattan? In 2012? 2013? Early 2013? That's almost 8 years, I think, give or take. That's a long time, so I thought that would have been a great way to reintroduce them. Obviously, I knew they were in crossovers since then. They were in Time of the Doctor, and they were also in Hellbent, I believe. But it would have been a prime time to bring them back because we hadn't seen them in such a long time. But no, it's the Cybermen. And I understand that it's going to tie into the two-parter later. But really, all you had to do to tie it into the two-parter later on was say, well, the Cybermen finds the time fracture, goes back to this early point, and starts the Cybermen from there. Thus, when the trio or quadro arrive, then time's all wonky and they've got to fix it because they're all Cybermen now. I don't know, I just think that it would have made so much more sense as a Weeping Angel story. And the guy that was disappearing, the guy who the Weeping Angels are after, that could be due to him being erased from time, Marty McFly style. I just think that this could have been so much better with Weeping Angels in it. Like, can you imagine, like, with all those, like, figures that were moving, the figures that were moving closer were actually possessed people by the Weeping Angels? Imagine that. That would have been infinitely better, in my opinion. But, you know, we have what we have, and don't get me wrong, I thought the episode overall was pretty solid, like, probably one of the best of Series 12. But that's not really saying an awful lot, is it? I don't know, I feel like when I was going through it, I was like, oh, well, you could have done that better, or that could have been improved. I don't know, maybe I'm just being too picky. I'm not sure. I won't lie, I'm one of these people who looks at something and says, well, maybe this could be different. You know, I'm always looking at ways to improve things. It's just the way my brain works. So, I don't know. I will say, like, the opening sort of 30 minutes, I was really enjoying it. The later parts, I will admit, just felt quite goofy. Also, I will say that to me, the Cyberium felt straight out of a fan fiction. Like, that felt like something that came out straight out of a fan fiction. Like, I can imagine a fanfic writer going, we need a mysterious MacGuffin for the Cybermen to use. Cyberium. Perfect. Like, that's what it felt like to me. And I understand that the showrunners are basically just writing fan fiction for themselves, but it can't come across as fan fiction, you know what I mean? And I thought the repetition of Jack's message, it just got a bit tiresome. Once I was like, yeah, fine, you gotta tie it in. But it was like, towards the end, it felt like all the companions' dialogue was, don't forget about Jack's message. Do you remember Jack's message? Oh, Doctor, don't do that. What about Jack's message? It was just like, yeah, we get it. Jack told you not to do something that you're doing. We know. It's probably going to have consequences at some point. You don't have to cram it down our throats. But yeah, I don't know. This was just fine to me, I guess. I really liked the first half. I really wasn't a fan of the second half. So the end is just sort of fine, I guess. This is probably the weakest review that I've ever done because I just struggled so much to get my opinions out on this one. But yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this video was obviously we had the reveal that the Cybus Industries Cybermen are returning in a trailer posted by the Doctor Who YouTube channel. I believe it was on BBC America before that though, because for some ungodly reason BBC America seems to get all the good trailers before we do, which really doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it, considering the show is made in Britain, but whatever. Yeah, so we got a reveal that the Cybus Industries Cybermen is returning, and to me, I won't lie, it just reeked of desperation. It was like, hey, what can we bring back? Well, it was super successful when we brought back the Mondasian Cybermen in Series 10, and we've already had the Cybus Industries Cybermen in the last series. I'll just bring them back again. It was like, I kind of feel the same way about the Cybus Industries Cybermen as I do about the Time War Daleks. I like the design, hell, I love the design, but there's only so many times you can see that design before you're like, I want to see something different now. And for a while we got that, but then they started bringing back old Cybermen again. They did it in World Different Time Doctor Force, and now again in Series 12, and I'm just like, stop relying on the past as a crutch. Carve your own path. I don't know, I feel like it's a bit desperate when you have to constantly bring back old ideas in order to try and drum up some sense of hype. You know, and plus, that new design looks so great that I don't want it to be overshadowed by the return of the Nightmare and Silver design, sort of. There's the return of the Cybus design and a new design. I don't want the new design to be overshadowed. Yeah, those were my thoughts though. I know this was really unorganized, but to be honest, that's how my thoughts feel. They're not really in some sort of coherent order. They're just sort of a bit all over the place. And yeah, there's not a lot else I can say about this one. I'll say that it laid the groundwork for the finale decently, and I honestly thought that the Cybermen was only going to turn up in the last sort of 10 minutes, so it was nice to actually see it before then, because I was really worried that it was going to be a Resolution Dalek situation where we get about 20 minutes of screen time from it, and then the rest of it is just something wholly unrelated. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below, whether you love this episode, whether you loathe this episode, or whether you're like me and you're somewhere in the middle on it. As always, links to my Twitter and Discord will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you.
Make sure to exterminate that subscribe button.
Have you been craving some high quality merch that doesn't have She Who Shall Not Be Named on the cover? Are you struggling to get a gift for a family member or relative after they seem to have everything after Christmas? Well, fear not, as I have the perfect solution. Introducing Thary's merch! Not only is this merch high quality and affordable, but if you purchase it you'd also be helping me, which means a lot. But I didn't stop at just shirts, oh no. On the Thary's merch store you can get notepads, hoodies, mugs and more. Just visit the link in the description below and on screen now. Because hey, every penny you spend in the Thary's merch store is a penny that the BBC won't see. And I think that that's something we should all be proud of.
Oh, look down there, you got a little shop. I like a little shop.
Never mind that.